Executive Privilege broke beautifully, but then so did Beholder, and Beholder's taken a nice strong hold down at the rail and kicks on to lead them. Here's Kawaii Katie on the outside. They're going to set a fast early pace out here. Now Executive Privilege decides to drop back into the third spot. Followed by Renee's Queen in the fourth position. Spring in the air at the rails, a good 7 lengths off that leader. Racing in behind that comes Almost an Angel. Dreaming of Julia has her ears pinned on the far side. She's a good 7 lengths off these leaders. And Broken Spell as the trailer. They move on to the backstretch, and Beholder now set that quick early pace, and Beholder on a long rein now, though, going comfortably. Beholder in front by just over a length. Kawaii Katie's tracking from the second position. And here's Executive Privilege back third, making a little bit of headway on the leader. Now 3 lengths off them. Now there's Dreaming of Julia moving up on the far side. In behind that comes Spring in the Air. Renee's Queen's alongside of that. Almost an Angel and Broken Spell. The last two, they got 8 to make up. They run past the 3/8 pole still. Garrett Gomez and Beholder out in front. And let's see, Beholder's starting to kick for home now, and Beholder's opened up 2 lengths on them. Kawaii Katie comes after them from second. Executive Privilege trying to find a place to run down at the rail. Dreaming of Julia is next. These 4 have kicked away. Heads a turn for home, and right now it's all Beholder. She hugs the rail and goes for home. Whippers coming up now, though, on Beholder. Put away, tries to hold on. Here's Executive Privilege. Beholder and Executive Privilege coming through the stretch together. Beholder and Garrett Gomez. Executive Privilege and Rafael Biano. They starting to shift ground. It's Beholder on the inside holding on. Beholder's going to go all the way. And Beholder and Garrett Gomez have won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile finish. Executive Privilege shifted her ground, finished up second, and then came Dreaming of Julia in third.
Oh, hi, everybody. Ren Carruthers here. And wow, you just saw Beholder winning the 2012 Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. And, you know, talk about a future star. That was like the big coming out party. She ended up being a 4-time Eclipse champion, winning the Breeders' Cup Distaff twice. And she, of course, gave us that scintillating performance in the Pacific Classic against the boys as well. I have a very special guest today. That is Ned Toffey of Spendthrift Farm. And we've had big news today because Beholder just gave birth to her 4th foal.
She did about 6 o'clock this morning, and she's really gotten to be a pro. She seems to do everything right, but it was really a textbook delivery, and gave us a beautiful Bolt Doro filly. So, you know, so far so good.
So Bolt Doro standing there at Spendthrift Farm, and here is mommy and baby. That is a big filly.
Yeah, you know, that actually makes it look a little bit bigger than it is. But yeah, she's a nice size filly with a really good frame on her. And she was 111 pounds, which is probably average or maybe even a shade smaller than average. But you can see she has a big frame, so she is going to end up being a really good size filly in the long run.
Well, it's so exciting to see the next generation because you're always hoping. There's that old saying, right? You breed the best of the best and hope for the best. As I said, this is her 4th foal. Now she's had 3, none to race just yet. We got QB1 in the wings. What is the latest on him? QB1 by Uncle Mo, a champion himself, 2010's Eclipse champion, 2-year-old and Breeders' Cup juvenile champ.
Yeah, he's been doing pretty well. Richard likes him. He was actually getting pretty close to running. He spiked a fever, which I guess sort of ran through Santa Anita a while back. So had to back off on his training. Early late in his 2-year-old year, Richard had sort of backed off on him a little bit as well. Just, you know, Richard's great in terms of being patient and bringing them along at the pace they need to. He got a little time off and got back into training, and you know, again, a little bit of a setback with a fever, but we're excited to see what he can do, and hopefully it's, you know, not much more than a month or so off, maybe a little more than that, but we'll see.
Well, in addition to him, in 2019, she had a Curlin filly. That's Karen with an I. And we talked a little bit before the show actually went live. Can you tell us who Karen is named after?
Yeah, so Eric Gustafson, who is Mr. Hughes' son-in-law, and Eric is the president of Spendthrift Farm. and his mother had just recently passed away, and so that foal is named after his recently deceased mother, so named Karen. So nice to be able to honor a loved one with what we think can be really special filly.
And there's another loved one who's being honored with Beholder's 2020 foal, a Warfront filly, and her name is Tina Ella.
And that's actually named after Richard Mandela's mom, who passed away last year. And the Hughes family and the Gustafsons thought it would be really nice to honor Richard's mom. And Richard, he's meant so much to us and to Beholder, and so it was a nice touch.
It truly is beautiful. And the thing that is also so exciting about Beholder herself is we can, I think, all agree in the racing world that her Damn Leslie's Lady is our modern blue hen mare. I mean, to not only have produced Beholder, but Into Mischief, who is a prepotent sire, who we'll talk about him more in a minute, but then also Mendelssohn. So you get so much precociousness, class, and versatility with all of her progeny. And then they, at least with Into Mischief so far, because Mendelssohn's foals have yet to run, it's just incredible, the class that's just been carried on.
Yeah, it's an amazing thing. And if you think about a stallion who had, hundreds of tries a year, and he produced those 3 horses, you'd say he's a pretty good sire.
Yeah.
A broodmare gets 1 try a year. And so in their really relatively short career, particularly when you look at it from a standpoint of numbers, it's just really remarkable that any one mare would throw so many really special horses. And we've just, we've been fortunate enough to own 2 of those 3, and we tried very hard to own the 3rd, but Coolmore was a little more determined than we were. But we're pretty happy with the 2 that we landed on.
Well, one of the remarkable things about Into Mischief himself is in his very first crop, he gives us Golden Sense. So at that point, you had to have the feeling that the better book of mirrors he gets, he's just going to go gangbusters out there with his progeny. And then, hello, 2020, Authentic proves aptly named, winning the Derby and the Breeders' Cup Classic. And he did put in one of those sensational throwdown performances in the Preakness, of course, with Skydiver. But maybe he was more looking for a date that day.
Well, as Bob said, he was just being gentlemanly and
yes, right.
Let her through up on the rail. But Swiss Skydiver's a heck of a horse, and there's no race getting beat by her. And I think in this country we tend to make a little bit more about the colt filly thing, but if you look around the rest of the world, it gets done so commonly that the filly's running against the colts. So to me, definitely no disgrace there at all. And it was that's a wonderful filly, and they both ran a great race, one of the faster Preaknesses that's ever been run. So proud to have been a part of it.
Well, with Authentic, what was it like first for you guys? I mean, not only having the connection with him already as a racehorse, but standing his sire, and you're looking for that big classic winner to put the exclamation point on basically that genetic gold that's running through those veins. Yeah. So watching the Derby first, were you there at Churchill? Or, I mean, I know everything was weird with COVID.
I was, we were at Churchill, and, we also own half of 1,000 Words, who was in the race. And of course, 1,000 Words flipped in the paddock and had to be scratched. And I won't speak for anyone else, but I know for myself, I was probably sitting around feeling a little sorry for myself that our horse had just scratched. And I actually did have the thought, well, would it be too much to ask as a consolation prize to have Authentic jump up and win the race? And of course, a lot of people were questioning whether he would get the distance or not. When they came to the top of the stretch and Tiz the Law came to him, and Tiz the Law is a wonderful horse, but when when Authentic responded the way he did, that's a moment I'll never forget. And that was really, really just magical.
Well, and I'm sure you also could hear through the stratosphere all the cheers of the My Racehorse fans as well, the owners. And so what do I got to ask this too, because what happened to Bob Baffert in the winner's circle enclosure, that probably, talking about exclamation points, put one on just what a surreal derby it was as a whole. And I do have to say, kudos to both Bob and Donato Lani, because Donato got Jill out of the way, and then Bob took the brunt.
Yeah. Well, Eric Gustafson, our president, took a pretty good.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry.
And I probably don't have much to brag about that. I just worried about myself and took a giant step backwards and to the right and was clear.
Yes.
So I probably should have been worrying about other people.
Oh my goodness.
It was quite a scene, and you know, you're being in the winner's circle, crowd or no crowd, you're in a little bit of a state of shock.
Yeah.
And it's all really very surreal, even thinking back on it.
Well, I will say, you know, going into the Breeders' Cup Classic, I was blessed enough to be there because, you know, working for Breeders' Cup. And I remember ahead of the race, you know, the horses are in the saddling enclosure, and I just watching Authentic and Maximum Security go round and round their trees in there at Keeneland, and just eyeballing each other every time they'd come around. It was really, you knew something was going to be game on for sure. The horse, he just looked so full of himself.
Yeah, well, you know, it's interesting too. Watching Beholder's 2-year-old race on the lead-in. You know, that was very much what turned out to be Authentic style. That come and get me style. Yeah. And he's just so competitive. And when these horses come to him, he's just determined not to let them by. And it's just really impressive to watch. And you know, I think that's one of the things that we definitely saw with Authentic, and one of the things that we see, one of the things that helps make Into Mischief such a good sire is that they're mentally tough. They're very, very competitive, and there's no way to teach that. And you know, a sire and his offspring either have it or they don't. And
this might sound weird, but the other thing I've noticed with Into Mischief progeny, they all seem happy whenever that might sound strange, but like whenever you see them, you know, doing, you know, whether they're just in the paddock hanging out, getting settled, getting ready to run, or running, they're professionals, but they look like they're happy with what they're doing. They just look like, this is what I'm born to do, and they're living life.
You know, I think I think you're right. I think they just have a great attitude, and I think that's one of the things that helps him be so successful and have the numbers of good horses that he has, because there's you know, many thoroughbreds are very hot-blooded, and some of them end up being sort of their own worst enemy. Yeah. They lose the race in the paddock. But so many of these Into Mischiefs are just so good-minded, and they seem to enjoy their job. They like to go to the track. They like to train. They're competitive. They just enjoy what they're doing, and I think that's one of the things that helps him. You know, lots of horses can get some good horses here and there, but he does that. But then he also gets so many really, really good, useful ones as well. So he gives you sort of the best of both worlds. A lot of horses give you one or the other, and he gives you both, and really a remarkable thing.
Oh yeah, definitely. And one of my favorite pictures I've ever taken actually is of Practical Joke. He happened to have his head hanging out of the stall at church, or at Chad Brown's barn, and he just looks so playful, and you just want to grab that head. He has such a kind eye. I mean, they all have these really kind eyes, and it's very endearing. But then they have the talent to back it up.
They really do. And Into Mischief is very much that way. He's just he what's the old expression? Child could handle him on a silk string. He's just he's a perfect gentleman, and He's an absolute pleasure to be around.
And great bone, by the way, as well. Now, we've been talking about authentic. Why don't we take a look back at the Breeders' Cup Classic and his big, I don't know how you want to call it, but the big, okay, everybody, I'm dropping the mic now, heading off the stud performance here in, again, the Breeders' Cup Classic. So we'll share the screen, make sure I have the audio up because we want to hear the call. Head to the Chrome tab, and here we go.
They're rolling live. They're off in the Breeders' Cup Classic. Higher Power was off to a slow start. Tis the Law broke very well, but will be taken.
Now, where were you when this race was going off?
Actually, they just went by me. I was on. They had some auxiliary seating right on the apron at Keeneland, and I think we were probably between the 16th pole and the finish line, and we watched from there and wanted to have a good view of the stretch, and we were getting a little ahead of ourselves. We were thinking we didn't want to be too far from the winner's circle, so we thought we had a shot. So.
Yes. Well, it's pretty fun. Matt Carruthers and I, we were done for the day, and we were standing on the apron, and because I'm short, I was standing on the actual ledge of the apron watching this.
No, this was one of the things that was so great about this was, he had a number of races. You go back and the start just wasn't quite ideal. Even the Derby, Tis the Law kind of came out and just rushed him and kind of pushed him out just a little bit. And so he had to work a little bit to get over to the rail from that outside position in the Derby and make the lead. And this race, everybody broke in a line, and he just totally broke in stride. And so, and being a smaller field, it was very, very easy for him to just get over to the position that he wanted and get out in front. And I kind of felt like once that happened, I really felt good about where we were.
Well, this is where I'm standing there going, am I seeing what I'm seeing right now? Because it almost looks like he rebrakes. And he had already put in, this wasn't just one of those, the situations where a horse gets the lead and basically steals on the front end because he goes comfortably the whole way around. This horse was running legit fractions the whole way around.
Yeah.
And look how happy he is right there. You see a happy horse.
Yeah.
He's into mischief. They're just like, hey.
Well, and that's one of the things that I love about his chances as a sire. I think the fact that it takes a lot for a horse. It's very demanding to go out, because there's not a lot of strategy there. It's go to the lead and just basically it's I'm faster than you and I can go farther than you. It's pretty simple. Mm-hmm. But not every horse can do that. Not every horse has the inherent ability to do that. It's the very simple old traits that we all look for: speed and stamina.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very accurate measure of that. He's not a horse who's rating and needs a fast pace in front of him, sitting off of a pace. Again, as I said, not much strategy. Just go fast and keep going. And that really bodes very well. It reminds me, Seattle Slew was a great horse, and some people might be offended at the comparison, but I love it's the same sort of running style.
And you're right.
That I think can really translate well to their offspring. And you saw that with Slew, and so many of those just like to get out in front and go. It wouldn't surprise me at all to see the same kind of thing. And we can. The great thing about this game is we can always dream.
That's right.
Hope that his can do something like Seattle Slew or like Into Mischief. So.
Well, I mean, and that field, that was a deep field. I mean, you had Improbable in there, Maximum Security, Tom's the Top, Tis the Law, from top to bottom. And he just like we've discussed, he just got out there and catch me if you can, and nobody could. And as you also mentioned before, we look at pedigree. Is this horse going to go a mile and a quarter? He went it twice, first against the 3-year-olds in the Derby and then against the older there. And I've almost, as somebody who's prided themselves on being a petty geek, I've gotten to the point now where I feel like the talent is either inherently there or not. There's something there with the class lines, with when you have a blue hen like Leslie's Lady in the mix, coming into play, and the fact of the matter also just the mechanics of the horse. The breathing. I mean, I don't know. I know some people do have horses now measured for their breathing, their heart rate. I don't know if he ever, underwent any of that. But
I think one thing that plays a big role there, and I in saying that there's not a lot of strategy, I certainly don't want to downplay the role that Johnny Velasquez had.
Oh no, of course not.
I think one of the things that's so important that what he did, that where breathing plays a part, is that he finds the right pace, and lets them settle into stride,
catch their breath.
When a jockey does that right, and knowing the horse, and that's when they can settle into that rhythm. They can set their breathing and be ready to do that for a mile and a quarter. And so Johnny, I was really excited when Bob decided he wanted to go with Johnny, because I thought he fit him so well. I think his style that he's won so many races on was very much the style that was Authentic's best style to win a race.
Well, you also have Vino Rosso there, who won the Classic the year prior, and I believe Johnny was riding him as well.
I think that was not Johnny.
It wasn't? Oh, I thought he was for sure. You know what? I'll double check. But you talk about Vino Rosso standing there, because I know he's got some fools on the ground.
Vino is really exciting because we're now seeing his first foals, and they just are. We just have got one breeder after another calling us up. This morning we get another call from somebody who says, I just had a knockout superstar of a Vino Rosso foal. We've had a couple here on the farm, and both of them are exceptional. So we couldn't be more excited about what they look like. And they look like what you're looking for in a newborn. They've got some balance, they've got some style to them, they've got some bone. The front ends are exactly what you want to see on foals at this age. And so we're really excited about that.
Oh gosh, no, that sounds exciting. You were right. It was a Rad Ortiz Jr. Aboard. I don't know. I was thinking Pletcher, and when I think Pletcher,
no, Johnny's done. He's won a lot of races with Doc.
Yeah, but I'll say that's another horse I saw ahead of the Breeders' Cup up close and personal. I happened to be in the barn because I was getting follow-up interviews with some of the connections of horses with the winners of the Future Stars Friday program. And I saw him there just chilling in the barn. He couldn't look more comfortable, in his own space there. And you want to talk about a horse's coat gleaming. Yeah. My gosh, he could not have looked fitter.
That horse, particularly, that whole year, his 4-year-old year, and particularly the second half of that year was just tremendous. Todd had him looking so good. He brought him up to that race perfectly. But again, the whole second half of the year was great.
Yeah.
He just, when we got him here and showed him to breeders, he just absolutely looked the part. And he was one of those horses that on Breeders' Cup week really he was sort of the talk of the track all week long there. And, he really was just a monster. And the neat thing about him, he's another one who's just a absolute gentleman of a horse. Could not be a kinder horse. Just great to work with. He just really an absolute pleasure. And I think, again, you really look for, I think sometimes on these fillies, you like to see a little bit of an edge. I think on the colts, you want to see just a really good mind and a really intelligent horse, and maybe a little bit more laid back, a horse that takes things in really well. You see that with Into Mischief, that with Vino Rosso, Beholder got, as Richard liked to talk about, definitely has a switch. And, you want to be careful about when you flip that switch.
Oh my goodness. Well, I remember seeing her in the paddock. He was schooling her one day, and they had her in one of the stalls there at Del Mar. And he's just petting her and giving her a peppermint every, now and then. she was just putty in his hands, and it was very endearing to watch. And another thing I will say about Beholder, she put in one of those races where, I mean, I'm actually going to close the show. Spoiler alert, I'm going to close the show with her winning the Distaff in 2016, because that is right up there with Easy Goer Sunday Silence. It is. Seattle Slew and Exceller.
There you go. Yeah.
So, you know, the Pacific Classic, that move she put on, unbelievable. That's one of those races you remember where you were when you watched it. I happened to be with Matt, and I was hanging out. It was Matt and me, and we happened to run into Ramiro Restrepo, and we were on the back patio there at Ciro's in Saratoga, watching this, going, "Oh my gosh!" We had to pick our jaws off the ground.
It was very much the same. I had been out in California for her previous start, and when she was headed back to the winner's circle, you know, I think that was the Clement Hirsch, and Richard said, you know, I'm going to take a shot at the Pacific Classic, and so I was actually like back home. And you're right. I remember exactly what I was doing, but I was watching that race in my living room with my wife and family. And when she made that move, I just jumped up and won't repeat the things that came out of my mouth, but I just, you know, leave it. It was just, it's still, I think whether we were connected, you're connected to her or not, it's still one of those races that you're never going to forget. It was really a special move. And I loved Gary's comment afterwards when he was asked, might have been Matt, but somebody asked him, said what, you know, what was that like when you asked her on the back stretch? And to get a great answer, he said, "Oh, I didn't ask her there. She just did that on her own." It made it even more remarkable.
You got chills. You knew you were watching something special. You didn't even have to know anything about horse racing, I don't think, to understand that move was just something out of bounds. And oh, you know what? I have a comment here. I'm so sorry. Pineapple Gaming says, "Congrats, Mr. Toffey." There's a lot to congratulate you on. I'm not sure what this is in specific reference to, but
okay.
Everything. Congratulations on everything. I mean, to manage a roster, how many stallions do you have now?
We've got 24 this year.
24. And you know, the other thing that is so innovative about Spendthrift, you guys created the Share the Upside program, which, can you briefly, for layman's out there, because a lot of people who watch, they're just fans of racing, they don't necessarily breed, but I think this has, you know, been so great for the breeding industry that it should be shared.
Yep. So what we, you know, this came from the idea that a lot of breeders will support a horse in his early days. He might be a little less expensive, and then when he goes on and achieves and becomes an expensive horse, they can no longer afford him. And so oftentimes it's the people that are helping make the horse that get shut out later on just because of the price point. And so the idea is that if you breed, in most cases, we have some variations on it, but in most cases, if you breed to the horse in his first 2 years, your mare produces a live foal, you pay the stud fee. After that second stud fee's paid, you've earned a lifetime breeding right.
Wow.
And so actually our breeders got the opportunity to do that with Into Mischief.
That's insane.
And those have sold for as much as $1 million. It would have cost you $13,000 in stud fees to earn the breeding right. And there was no obligation either. If you wanted to breed 1 year and decided you didn't want to follow through the next year, you could do that. And much to some people's chagrin, they didn't.
I'm sure you've heard many people lamenting that they didn't take you up on it.
Yeah, there was really a relatively small number of people that decided to stay in the program and earn a breeding right with Into Mischief, and it just shows you what a difficult game this is. All the best and the brightest had that opportunity, and really was in the single digits of people that took advantage of it. And I you know, I'd love to say we knew all along that he would kind of. That's just not the case. He's a remarkable horse, and what makes him that, you know, who really knows what magic ingredient it is, but we're glad we're glad he's in our barn.
Well, I'm sure you are. Now, going back to Bolt, because he is the proud papa of Beholder's new filly. When you were planning this mating, did you know right away once you acquired the once you knew Bolt was going to be come into stud, that he was going to be the next date, or how does the pairings come along for a horse like Beholder?
That's one that we all every year we have pretty long healthy debates on exactly what we're going to do. We bred her 3 times to stallions off the farm, and you get to a point in a mare's career where you don't quite know, are they going to go on and be successful, or do you want to keep putting outside stud fees, or do you want to try to support one of your own sires? We have just the highest of hopes for Bolt Doro. He was
my Derby pick. He was my Derby pick that year. That pedigree,
phenomenal talent. If you watch what he did as a 2-year-old,
yeah,
see him physically, and you think this horse has no business performing like this as a 2-year-old, because he's a great big scopy horse that looks like he'd be a late 3-year-old 2-turn kind of a horse. And so to have that kind of precocity, again, just that so much natural ability, and then just an absolutely wonderful pedigree, and a beautifully made horse. We have just every hope for his success at stud, and we thought that they complemented each other really well. We really liked the physical mating. We liked the mating on paper from a pedigree standpoint, and said let's give it a shot. And
I love that. Yeah,
Vic Ruiz, who is our partner, lobbied just a little bit for that as well. But again, we're really excited about it, and so fingers crossed. But
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Results so far.
Oh yeah. Well, the other thing that I also loved about that pairing was, here you've got Bolt Doro by Medaglia d'Oro out of an AP&E mare, and that mare, as we briefly kind of touched upon, she's been super successful. So here you've got another mare that's been throwing black type left and right, crossed with Beholder, whose own dam is a blue hen mare. So I really thought it was a savvy breeding.
Well, we'll keep our fingers crossed. Mostly what we need now is some luck.
So what somebody's asking, who is Beholder crossed to? I think that if you're talking about the foal that was just born, we're talking about the baby's daddy right now, and that is Bolt d'Oro. I'll ask, you don't have to say, do we know who she's going to go to next?
We are debating a few different options right now. So we've not made a final decision. We wanted to wait and see what this foal looked like. So that's a possibility to go back. We've got some really nice first and second year horses. We probably won't do this. I actually had one mating expert recommend Authentic, which would be a very interesting mating. It would be 3x2 inbreeding to Leslie's Lady.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Sort of like how they've done in the past with like Number to Count.
Mm-hmm. It's a shade close. It's not always done. There are some examples of very good horses that were the result of 3x2 or 2x3 inbreeding. I love the concept of inbreeding to a superior female.
No, yeah, of course, yeah.
Absolutely love that. So if we don't do that with her, I think her Curlin daughter will be that would be 3x3, and that may well happen. So
well, if she did go to Authentic, you'd have to come up with like a Game of Thrones type name.
Yeah.
Like the Targaryen line, right?
Yeah.
Keeping the line pure. I mean, they did that in ancient Egypt, but I mean, I'm sure I would have my opinions too. I feel like she's a horse that goes with so many different types.
Yeah,
so many different lines.
The great things about her, she's a mare with physically she suits so many horses, because she's a good size mare, but she's not enormous. She's not an extreme, but she's certainly a big, strong mare. So you don't worry about breeding her something that's really big or something that's really small. She can kind of even out a lot of different sires. And again, you know, you know, again, that pedigree is
gosh,
as good as they get. So
it's so good. And you know, the other thing that's kind of fun about today with that filly being born is it's also Enable's birthday. So that's a good horse to share a birthday with, I think.
not a bad mare at all.
I will say, I mean, I wouldn't mind. I know it's a different farm, but I wouldn't mind seeing an American Pharaoh Beholder baby.
That's you
I'm
know,
just saying.
right.
They look so like their type is so. I think they complement each
very,
other.
very similar, and that's from year one. That's been a horse who's been in the discussion every single year. Again, Coolmore, as you might guess, they lobbied for that one.
Oh yeah.
Well, but they are so similar, and I think there's a lot to be said for that. So that's not ruled out. I think probably we probably won't do that, but I'll never say never.
Never say never. Never say never. I mean,
yeah, but he was a wonderful horse, and again, that one's always been very tempting to me for exactly that. Because they are such similar types, and I really like that.
And his temperament's so great too.
The reason year one we wanted to go to something proven that happened. And that's where the Uncle Mo came from, and we like that on paper as well. So, but yeah, the American Pharaoh's always been a very tempting one.
Well, I'm sure even if he's all full booked, I'm sure he gets a call from you guys. They're like, "Yep, we can fit you in."
People tend to find room for mares like that.
Absolutely. You know, one of the things that you were saying before also about, you know, Leslie's Lady and just how remarkable it is for her to have been so potent as a broodmare. And if you were a sire, that's the career made right there. It's, you know, on the flip side, that's why I feel so bad for a horse like Zenyatta. I was so heartbroken that she had lost her foal.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people need to appreciate it's hard enough to get a foal on the ground, let alone to, you know, the races. And she's only had 2 foals to race, only 2. And some people have already dismissed her as a broodmare. I'm like, well, I don't think that's fair because.
Oh, it really is true. And I was thinking about that, you know, just in the last week as you sort of, you know, worry about all the things that may go wrong with any foaling. And my experience, my background is as a broodmare manager. So I've spent a lot of time in foaling barns and you know, foaling mares. And, you know, I know firsthand there's so much that can go wrong. And, you know, I'm more involved in sort of, you know, planning the mating side now. You know, I'm not there for every foaling, but you know, it's a long process, and you make a decision, you get a contract, you hope you can get them bred, you get them bred, you get in full, you know, you're 11 months hoping that things go right, and sometimes you don't always get to that 11 months, and sometimes you can get to that 11 months and not have a very good outcome, and it's a tough game, and so, you know, I was thinking about that today, how fortunate we are that Beholder has been so good at this. And again, this morning's foaling, all of hers have been pretty straightforward, but you know, this morning was absolutely textbook
great
foaling. And so we hope that'll continue to be the case with the development of this foal. But it's a tough game, and there's so many little things that can go wrong and prevent any horse. And it's a tough standard. We're a little hard sometimes on broodmares that don't get the good runner right away. I mean, we bred a grade 1 winner out of a named Condo Commando that was out of a very good race mare named Yearly Report. That mare was bred to all the top a number of the top sires. Got some very nice looking horses. Had very modest success. We dropped her down because she wasn't really getting it done. We bred her to Tis Wonderful, who was at the time was at like a $12,500 stud fee, and that resulted in that mare's grade 1. So
you just never know.
You just never know. And most of the stud fees that she was bred on were 85 and up. 85,000 and up, and we dropped her down to a 12.5 horse who was a very nice, you know, prospect, and turned out to be a very respectable sire. But you know, that was by far her best foal. And so you just never know. I would say we're playing genetic roulette here.
It's so true. It's so true.
Sometimes you hit and sometimes you don't.
Oh my gosh, no, that's definitely the case. And I know a horse who will eventually be joining your broodmare band. Monomoy girl, oh my gosh, you shocked the world. I happened to be at that basic Tipton sale and I saw you right after. My mind was blown. I thought for sure, I was like, okay, Monomoy girl's going up for auction. Mandy Pope's going to buy her. She'll go off to stud or, get bred and have her babies and la di da. Not only did you guys buy her for what, $9.5 million?
Yeah.
And then you put her back in training.
We were worried about Mandy too. I had been designated to
I
tackle.
love it.
If she kept breeding, but kept bidding, I should say. But there's a lot of good people that we thought would be very determined. That's right about the number we thought we'd have to be at to get her done, though. She's the kind of horse that anyone would love to add to their broodmare band, and we're very, very fortunate to have gotten her. So.
Well, so what, how was the decision always to buy her and keep her in training with Brad, or was this something that you decided after?
Yeah, no, that was something we were leaning towards running her again because she was relatively lightly raced for her career, and we felt we had vetted her at the sale, and we felt very good about her ability to go on, and when we saw her at the sale, I mean, she's just an absolute portrait of a mare. I mean, she's absolutely beautiful. She's correct. She's a nice size. Again, similar to Beholder in that she's a nice, substantial mare, not too big, definitely not too small. And she's got a little bit of that same look in her eyes. She's not necessarily a pet. She's I've gotten to know her the way we've all gotten to know Beholder, but you can see she's a serious, tough-minded mare, and we're really thrilled to have her, and I think she'll hopefully have a great year and wind up at the Breeders' Cup and then back to Spendthrift for the broodmare band.
Now, it's kind of cool because she and Beholder are in very elite company. Obviously, Beholder's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. I'm pretty sure Monomoy Girl will end up in the Hall of Fame as well. But not only that, but they are two of only, I believe, 4 mares who have ever won the distaff twice.
I think that's
I
right.
think Bayakoa and Royal Delta are the other 2.
Yeah, and the remarkable thing, the stat that I love on Beholder that's just so remarkable is that she is, as far as we can tell, the only horse in the history of racing anywhere ever, no matter what country you look at, or no matter only horse to have won a Grade 1 stake at 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6.
How amazing is that?
Others went that long, but didn't start till 3. And it's a very, it's obviously a very rare accomplishment. It's been done once. And I'd be happy to hear if somebody knows of an exception to that. But I think it's not been achieved by any other horse. So it's a remarkable credit to her ability, to her soundness.
Yes.
And also to her management, particularly Richard. I mean, he did just such a wonderful job of managing her career and keeping her sound. She'd get a nice break after the Breeders' Cup just about every year and come back bigger and stronger and ready to go again. And it's really a great thing to see when somebody really manages a horse just the right way. It shows you what they can do for you.
Well, what's it been like in terms of the fact that she's she's become her own brand in a way, Queen Bee, with, for example, horse country tours and whatnot. Is she part of the tour? Is there a way fans get to see Beholder?
We do that at selected times. So we try to be, we have a young lady named Audrey Graham that does a lot of our tours, and she does a great job, and she tries to put together a lot of tours, and I spend most of the time saying no. But my job, I tried very hard to protect the horses So we make Beholder available when we think it works and when it can work with her schedule.
Yeah.
Certain times a year when she gets close to foaling, and really most of the time when she's got a foal by her side, we leave her alone and let her stay on her routine and let her do her thing as a mom. And then later on in the year, once she's been weaned, we'll make her part of the tour, and people get a chance to come up and feed her a carrot or a peppermint and get a picture with her. And she's pretty tolerant of all of that. So as long as she continues to do that, we'll continue to let folks come out and see her.
Now, I'm not going to make you commit to any of this, but I am curious, after having had this conversation with Brad Cox regarding going back to Monomoy Girl, before because I had gone to the barn after the races had concluded on Future Stars Friday, because we were shooting a follow-up interview with him about Essential Quality and Aunt Pearl. And Monomoy is there chilling, doing her thing. And he told us this horse is training so well, that if the Breeders' Cup Classic were 1 1/8 miles, he would have put her in against the boys. Do you have any expectation of her facing males in 2021?
We've talked a little bit about that with Brad, and we try to leave an awful lot of these decisions to the trainer. Those guys, I think it's important to appreciate the value of being in the barn every day with that horse and knowing them and knowing what makes them tick and knowing where they can be successful and where they can't. And we're certainly going to offer our suggestions and our input, but we're also going to defer to Brad. So if Brad feels like there's the opportunities there, I don't think he's not going to get much
pushback.
Not much pushback from us. We're willing to take that shot if Brad feels like the timing's right.
Okay, well, no, good to know. You actually are going to be going up against Brad next weekend at Oaklawn Park in the Southwest Stakes with a horse that you co-own, Keep Me in Mind, who's trained by Robertino Diodoro, a horse who actually had run third, just 2 lengths beaten to Essential Quality in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, or to put in the plug there, the TVG Breeders' Cup Juvenile presented by the Thoroughbred Aftercare Alliance.
Yeah.
So after that, he went ahead and he broke his maiden actually in the Kentucky Jockey Club Stakes very stylishly. Yeah. I know that you guys had been looking at the Risen Star, then the weather turned out bad, and Robertino Diodoro was saying that he'd rather now run the horse out of his own stall, not worry about traveling. Sometimes these horses, just like a human being, can get a little under the weather when you travel. Yeah. And so what are your expectations? What have you been hearing?
Horse has been training like a monster. We're really excited to be in on this horse. We think there's a huge amount of talent there. Yeah. I think his pedigree suggests that the longer distances and a little more maturity is going to do nothing but help him. I think what we got, it wasn't we at the time, but what they got out of him as a 2-year-old, you almost have to look at as a bonus. And I think there's so much potential, so much upside for this horse as a 3-year-old, and he has been training like a monster. So, and I really wouldn't even be overly worried about this first start. I think he's training well, and he's capable of anything in there. But again, I think he'll like it even better as he stretches out. So really excited about his chances.
Well, 4 starts so far, and like you're talking about this pedigree, he represents the freshman crop of Laoban, who's another horse who actually broke his maiden in a stakes race, having won the Jim Dandy. But he was thrown down against graded stakes competition all the way up until getting that win. But Laoban, I mean, there you've got a son of Uncle Mo out of a Speightstown mare. So you got Breeders' Cup champions top and bottom. And then Keep Me in Mind is out of a Victory Gallop mare. So yeah, I mean, Belmont winner right there.
Yeah, I mean, a horse that could absolutely run all day and have just a great career running against a lot of really good horses. And he was just a solid, hard knocking horse who didn't matter to him how far they were going. He was going to be there. And so I think that really bodes well for this horse's chances of stretching out.
No, it sounds exciting. Okay, so in addition to Keep Me in Mind and Monomoy Girl, who are you most excited about in 2021?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I think what I'm most excited about is the foals on the ground that we get. Wayne Hughes has a great expression. He says, "This is a great business because you're always looking ahead." And,
Yes.
and we brought a really exciting crop of stallions to stud last year, and it's just so exciting. So the foal who got overshadowed this morning was an Omaha Beach gas station sushi, who was a grade 2 winner and a very, very talented filly by Into Mischief. And that we actually bred, sold, bought her back later on and bred her to Omaha Beach. And she had a beautiful foal this morning as well. So, it's just so exciting looking ahead to these foals. And I guess my background is so much on the farm. I love what goes on here on the farm. And again, with Vino Rosso, Omaha Beach, Matoli, and even Maximus Mischief, some pretty exciting horses to bring to stud, and we're just everything we're seeing so far, we're really excited about. So.
Oh, speaking about Matoli, yeah, his half brother, Hot Rod Charlie, is also on the Derby Trail. I saw him running in the Robert B. Lewis. He was actually my pick that day, and then he got caught between Medina Spirit and I can't think of the horse on the outside right now. But he was in between, and now they have the new, whip rule and whatnot. So I don't know if that made a difference one way or the other in the finish. But he ran really well in the Breeders' Cup as well.
Matoli's just so talented.
Yeah.
Wouldn't put anything by any member of his family.
No, of course not.
Just absolute rocket ship of a horse. And one of the things that impressed me so much about him was when he won the Met Mile against probably the field of the year, and he just stretched out beautifully and was so impressive winning the Met Mile. So for a horse to sprint like that and then to stretch out and win in a mile, it just was really impressive. And we're really excited. We've had a number of foals so far that people are talking about, and we've had one on the farm ourselves, and it's beautiful foal. So just again, it's just such a great time of year, and every foal brings with it that hope that we all get caught up in, and it's what keeps us all coming back and doing what we do, and hoping that maybe the next great one is going to foal tonight.
Oh gosh, I love hearing that because there's no hint of cynicism after all these years. There's just that same level of excitement. And on the flip side, the cynicism, there can be the people who then rest on their laurels. I don't get any hint of that at all. Like you're always looking for the next.
This is a tough game, and it's what have you done for me lately?
Right.
Breeders have pretty short memories, and so we want to keep trying to bring good horses to stud and offer good value to our breeders, and keep going, and hope that some of these hit, and half the time I think it's the ones you don't expect to hit that hit, and the can't miss sometimes miss, but our approach is to just give them the opportunity to be successful, and the good ones find a way to do that. So that's our job. Is I've always said this when you're in the barn foaling, and it's our job staying in stance. Just don't get in their way. Don't screw it. Let horses will take care of most of this stuff themselves. And if we just stay out of their way, they do a pretty good job on their own.
Oh, that's so true. And I kind of get taken back as you do forget, because we can talk about Beholder, but then you can bring up Omaha Beach. I mean, like you just mentioned, and there's another horse so tremendously talented, and in the temperament, another horse who was known for this just really kind demeanor, and he also broke that stereotype. He and Warville of Warfront, because Warfront himself, I think a lot of people, because he had so much success with horses on the grass, they forgot that he himself was a dirt horse.
Yeah.
And then Omaha Beach and Will just came out and hey, we can win on dirt too.
Yeah, and one of the things that's so exciting for me, having done some business in Australia, we've stayed in some stallions down there. It's amazing the influence that Danzig has there through.
Yeah.
That case through Danehill. He is just an incredible influence all over the world, a little bit less so here in America. So I think when you've got a really special horse like Omaha Beach, with Danzig there in the background, there's so much opportunity, so much potential for him to just be absolutely anything, and then to be out of the family that he's out of, which is would sort of be the other great American dirt family right now in terms of Take Charge Lady.
Yeah,
just a wonderful family, and so he's bred in the purple, top and bottom, and a wonderful mindset, a wonderful talent.
Is he a horse you might consider for Beholder?
He is. He's one of the others on the short list. So we'll see. We'll keep seeing what some of these foals look like, and we'll see. So,
but it's like you said, you get one shot with the mare, and that's why you really have to plan it out.
Well, and it's nice too when I like. You don't always get the opportunity to do this. In our case, we have so many stallions here, and we can, we have some flexibility. But it's always a good advantage to be able to see the foal, see the next foal, and because it's just that much more information. What works, what doesn't work. A lot of people put a lot of stock in the nicking and get very hung up with that.
Mm-hmm.
We're very close with Alan Porter, who helped develop True Nicks. And there's been other nicking services around, and that's a wonderful tool in doing matings. But so often we rely on other things, and so no matter what decision we're going to hear about it, good and everyone will tell us how wrong we were to have done what we've done. But
no,
but that's one of the great things about the game. I love the fact that to me it's a compliment that people want to talk about it.
that they're this invested in it,
and so it's a great thing. So we'll see. But we've got lots of nice options, and we're excited about it. And so far, she's done everything right. So fingers crossed.
Well, Jerry wants Authentic and Songbird to get a date.
Well, we're probably going to have to talk to. You're going to have to talk to the owners of Songbird on that one. but we're here.
You're there. He also says, who is Authentic's next date? Authentic's got lots and lots of dates, I would say.
Yeah.
Who can you share as like maybe some horses that we know who are booked for this first season?
We usually don't talk a lot about who's booked.
That you can share.
Owners don't want to. I can tell you this: Authentic's book. You would if you looked at it pedigree for pedigree, name for name, you might easily confuse it with Into Mischief's book.
Really?
He's been that popular with.
That's exciting.
Yeah, he's got a tremendous, tremendous group of mares on his book, and tremendous breeders, and we're really excited by that. And look, it's we consider it a compliment and an honor anytime somebody decides to breed a mare with us and with one of our stallions. And we hope that we'll hold up our end of the bargain and help them get a really good horse.
Well, I want you to hang around for a minute because I'm going to end the show with a fabulous backtrack for y'all. But I want to say goodbye to you properly before I say audio, because I'll say adios to everybody here first, and then play the backtrack, and that's what will close the show. But Ned, thank you so much for taking the time out with us and telling us, all the latest on Beholder and the goings on there at Spendthrift, and being excited about Keep Me in Mind and the return of Monomoy Girl. And now, as far as that backtrack goes, fitting that Songbird should be brought up because we're going to watch one of the most exciting edge of your seat duels here in the 2016 Longines Breeders' Cup Distaff, in which, you really wanted them to have a dead heat.
No, I didn't.
No, you didn't. All right. Well, here we go. You did not. You got the win. Here's Beholder and Songbird throwing it down again in the 2016 Longines Breeders' Cup Distaff. One for the ages here, everybody. Okay, and gonna find it. Share the screen, and away they go.
As I'm a Chatterbox takes her spot at the starting gate, and here's Beholder in the final race of her career, going against Songbird and Stellar Wind, and they're all in line. Roar comes up here at Santa Anita, ready for the start. They're off in the Breeders' Cup Distaff, and Stellar Wind did not break at all. She had a very slow start as Mike Smith sent Sunbird to the front. And Beholder is right there, and I'm a Chatterbox is going to put some pressure on now, too. And then it's Carolina Way running in fourth position. Landover C is next. Stellar Wind, who just did not come out of the gate well at all. It's about 6 lengths off the lead with the Argentinian Corona del Inca alongside of her. Forever Unbridled is last, and Sunbird leads the way through a 23-1 opening quarter mile. A solid first fraction for her, but she's in the clear as they race onto the backstretch. I'm a Chatterbox is running along in second position onto the backstretch run. And then comes Carolina Beholder running outside is fourth. She's now 4 lengths off of Songbird on the backstretch. It's another 2.5 to Stellar Wind. And Victor Espinoza has her 6 lengths off the lead right now. Then Landover C, Forever Unbridled, and Corona del Inca. So it's a 47 flat half for Songbird. Very easy for her as she continues her journey into the far turn with a length lead. I'm a Chatterbox continues to pursue in second. Beholder has not moved yet. Gary Stevens has not asked her to go as of yet. Now he's starting to ask just a bit. And she's a length and a half off of Songbird, third in the far turn. Songbird is taken on now. And here comes Beholder. And a confrontation of champions as they come toward the top of the stretch. I'm a Chatterbox trying to cling to them. Stellar Wind's got work to do. Songbird and Beholder. And they're into the stretch. And here we go. Songbird set down. Beholder is alongside. Forever Unbridled is 2.5 lengths behind them. Furlong to run. Songbird, Beholder, they are nose to nose. This race living up to its expected power as they come to the wire. They're nose to the park. It's Beholder. I think she got her head down on the wire. Songbird, Doug and Gabling all the way. The two of them right together. And then came Forever Unbridled. The final time was 1 minute 49.20 seconds. I believe Beholder did it.
Beholder, what a performance in the Breeders' Cup Distaff.